bringing harmony to the human soul. And we can start to imagine that the world that we're living in is living in two states of awarenesses or perceptions. One perception is interpreted by the mind. The mind's job is to essentially take the perception of this reality and decode it into the temporary existence which we live. We have this existence, we live it, we breathe it, we feel it, we touch it, we acknowledge it, and it's only temporary though. Yet the mind's existence is only temporary. The heart's existence, on the other hand, isn't. The heart's existence is essentially the life force of which connects us back to our truth once we leave this reality. So the heart's existence has essentially the particles, or you could even say particles is very good, that once left the program of the minds will connect back to its within its truth. Now, it might sound a little bit crazy, but it's not, because once we can get our heads over and start to understand the program which we're living in, we can actually understand the program from which we're living in. And it's very simple to understand. And there is amounts of evidence that's coming out these days, which we can all investigate and learn. But the truth is, quite simply put, is that when somebody leaves this reality, we're welcomed back to our true nature. Now, what does this say to this reality if this just happens to be true? Well, it says that if we're living in this nature, this reality, and we are only believing that this reality exists, then what are we doing to our potential? Because if outside of this reality, there is something greater or something that exists outside of this reality, what does that put in context to this reality? That if we're living within this reality, feeling any constraint, then we may be living in a false version of ourselves, as the reality from which we are all a part of is in nature infinite. It has the infinite potential to serve infinite imagination, which means that the love from which we are a part doesn't take form, it only manifests. Therefore, if we in this reality are only feeling limited, or we're feeling suffering, or we're feeling hatred, or we're feeling any dense vibrational emotion, we may find ourselves being used within a false identity. Now, I refer to false identities as beings or entities which don't serve the true self. The true self is essentially life force, it's love, it's devotion, it's kindness, it's generosity, it's a state of mind or a state of perception which manifests, it develops, it glows, it loves. Now, these entities or these states of beings which don't serve our true self, they actually do the opposite. They find essentially our weaknesses, and through our weaknesses they feed, because what they're feeding on is essentially the life force of our true self. It goes a little bit deep, but it's nothing to freak out about or feel that it's overwhelming or crazy, because the truth does shock us a little bit, but it's something that we can adhere to and get used to.